Hello, good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everyone, and wherever you are. And welcome to the to another episode of the podcast series of South Asia Research Institute for Minorities. Today, we will be discussing a theme on human rights in digital age, challenges and opportunities for freedom of expression. It's a great honor and privilege for SARIM to have a very special guest. Professor Skrzypczak is from Poland. He is the head of Department of Media Systems and Media Law at Adam Mickiewicz University in Ponzan. Professor Skrzypczak is also the chair of Research Committee 26 on Human Rights of International Political Science Association from Poland. Thank you so much, Professor, for providing us your valuable time. Today, in the recent era, we are faced with many challenges, and challenges also bring out some opportunities as well. So people have adopted digital age as a means of communication for the past 15 years or so. But recent developments have taken place, like in terms of restrictions, some limitations have been imposed in this domain. So today we will be speaking on those limitations and challenges in the digital age and opportunities for freedom of expression. And people also have adopted digital media as a means of, you could say, the startup ecosystem also is pretty much attached to this domain. So people who are engaged in these activities are suffering from the limitations and the prohibitions on the digital sphere. We will learn more about this. So traditionally, I will be asking Professor JJ to formally introduce himself and let us know, our audience, that how he initially started off his career and what inspired you, Professor, to get to that stage and the stage of activism in the fields of human rights. And also those who have joined us, it's a great honor for us that Professor Skrzypczak also is the chair of International Political Science Research Committee on Human Rights. So thank you, Professor. Over to you. You can start proceedings.
Thank you very much for the invitation to this meeting, online meeting. I must add that Furqan is a member of RC26 board, so a very, very active person. So once again, thank you for the invitation. This is a great honor for me and pleasure to be here and to discuss about some opportunities and challenges for media regulation in the age of new media. Yeah. Okay. So I think that in fact we have the new digital era. Sometimes we call this period that this is a digital revolution, and it is obvious that the digital landscape has transformed, dramatically transformed. And in every step, producing, consuming, and dissemination. Yeah, and I think that this is a big opportunity, but also big challenge or challenges for policymakers and for media systems, because it seemed that the internet and social media it will be the new continent of freedom of expression. But in the fact, this is a paradox of especially social media, that sometimes I think that the limitation of freedom of expression is the limitation are higher than in the analog era. Why? Because now we have many game players, not only the state. Because when we thought about censorship, we always thought about state, censorship and state. But now we can observe censorship also from other persons, for example, social media platforms, and this is a big challenge for a discussion about the freedom of expression in the era of the new media.
Thanks so much, Professor Skrzypczak, for giving us the introduction about the challenges and the issues that are faced. As you've rightly pointed out, that it's now considered as a new continent. So new content also brings about new challenges and new opportunities as well for people who are actively using this platform. So coming back to the question, the digital landscape has dramatically transformed how information is produced, consumed, and disseminated. How do you see this evolution impacting traditional notions of freedom of expression, and what new challenges does it pose for legal frameworks and policymakers? You did touch upon this earlier, but I want you to please elaborate.
Thank you very much for these questions. Because as I mentioned, this is in fact a big challenge for freedom of expression and for policymakers, because we have many problems on this field. Because on the one hand, we have, for example, the internet. As I mentioned, this is a kind of the new continent without one power. Yeah, this is a problem also for legal systems because for internet, this is a world, whole world web. So this is a problem with domestic legal systems and responsibility before the law. Yeah. So this is one problem. Next problem. This is a next challenge. This is as also I mentioned in my introduction that we have so many actors on this field, not only state but also the for example, social media platforms. And on this field, it is obvious that this is a private companies. Fortunately, we can say that majority of them, I mean about the biggest social media platforms in the world, this is an American company, because there are a big tradition of freedom of expression. I mean about tradition of freedom of expression. But, for example, we have also such a player like TikTok, which is the Chinese company. So this is and we don't have here such big tradition of freedom of expression. So this is a big challenge for people who are thinking about the human rights, about the freedom of expression, and for ordinary people who use the social media. So once again, it seemed that it will be the new era of freedom. I mean about discovering of the era of social media and internet. But in fact, we have paradox that sometimes we can observe more of higher limitation of freedom of expression in on this field than before.
Absolutely, and thank you so much for highlighting two different means of social media. There's an American model and there's also a Chinese model in terms of TikTok. So there are certain challenges that also are faced by those who are actively involved in advocacy of human rights. So my next question is related to that activism basically. So social media platforms have become powerful tools for activism and social change. However, they also have been criticized for facilitating the spread of misinformation and hate speech. This is your favorite topic, right? So, and how can we balance the right to free expression in the presence of
the key word or key idea is on this field is balance. Balance between the right to the freedom of expression and, on the other hand, protection of individuals or communities. Yeah, and I think that we can find many models, but I think that the key point here on this field is education, education of people. Because, for example, when we think about when we think about dissemination and fake news. We must remember that fake news is as long dangerous as long user of such person think that this is true. When we discover that this is disinformation, I'm a lawyer, but I think that here the best solution is education. Education from the childhood, yeah, because especially young people, this is this generation which we call digital natives, yeah. They was born after they discovered the internet. So I think that they have many skills of using the internet, social media. But I think that it should be very responsible using of this kind of media. So education. This is very important, and we should have international regulation or attempt to this regulation. For example, for Poland, this is we are a member of European Union, and I think that especially in the last years, some EU regulation on this field are very interesting. I mean, for example, European Media Freedom Act, this is completely new regulation from this year, but also of, I think about the anti-slap slap. This is a strategy licensed against public participation. And we have also on this field the new EU regulation, anti-slap directive, and many other digital service act, etc. So why this is important and why this case is important for others regions in the world, because as you know, EU consists of 27 countries, and so it means that we have a big part of Europe where we have the common, the similar or the same regulation, yeah. And on the other hand, this is also important because I mentioned that not only the states are important in this game, but also big platforms. And discussion between EU and, for example, for Meta or other such big platforms could be when we have the strong person like EU, so it is easier to find a good solution and compromise with such platforms. Yeah. But on the other hand, we have also good experiences, for example, from the COVID-19 pandemic time, because many of these platforms tried to change. So, for example, algorithm and regulation, self-regulation, for example, in the battle with disinformation, according to the COVID-19 pandemic. Yeah. So I think that once again, education, not only for young persons, but also education for policymakers, but also owners of these big platforms.
Yeah, thank you so much, JJ, for categorically, comprehensively providing us the some of the solutions in the presence of leadership of EU to regulate these limitations on social media. And there is a follow-up question coming up after that. So, I mean, you talked about some regulations and some of the limitations that needs to be put on to halt freedom of expression and, to halt fake news and disinformation. So, government these days have put up surveillance and censorship, which are increasingly concerned in the digital age. What are the implications of these trends for human rights, particularly in the freedom of expression and how can we safeguard these rights while ensuring national security? Because this is very important, and you've been dealing with those issues quite recently as well.
So we can say that in the digital era, we have many faces of media, but we can unfortunately have many faces of censorship. I mean about, for example, chilling effects, self-censorship, or even I wrote some papers about it. This new idea, which I called privatization of censorship. It means that states give a opportunity to introduce censorship to private. So I mean that, for example, I mean about such trends which I observe. For example, in Taiwan, and relationship between China and Taiwan. But also in the last, we observed such similar trends in, for example, in Europe, in Hungary, in the period of Orban time, and also of last 8 years in Poland, when government via public companies bought private companies, private publishers. So this is next phase of censorship. Once again, I call this trends as privatization of censorship, of commercialization of propaganda. So it means that not state, but formerly private companies, like for example in Hungary, when in 2018 Orban launched the private foundation KESMA, and now this foundation has almost 75% of media market. This is only the example that next phase, next example of next phase of censorship. In result or in consequence, we have, for example, chilling effect. This is very dangerous for freedom of expression and freedom of media. But also, I think that next challenge, this is erosion of privacy, and access to the information, etc. So once again, unfortunately, and this is next paradox of digital era, that we have many phases of censorship. Not classical phase of censorship like in previous centuries, but the completely new version of censorship. All these phases could be very, very dangerous for expression, for freedom of expression, for activists, etc. And once again, back to this paradox about which I mentioned earlier, that it seemed that the digital era will be the era of freedom, of free flow of information. Everyone could be a sender of information, of course, but in fact, we can say that sometimes we have more problems or challenges with freedom of expression that in the analog era. You asked me about national security. Of course, this is very important, and even in European Convention on Freedom of Human Rights, we have one exception when freedom of expression could be limited in the case of national security. But unfortunately, we have many examples, for example, from the COVID-19 pandemic. when even in democratic states, we had the possibilities to limitation of expression. So we need discussion about the freedom of expression. We need standards of freedom of expression. We should think about human rights from a general global perspective. Yeah, I think that this is a good solution for these challenges.
Thank you so much, Professor JJ. You have categorically explained the difference between the commercialization of freedom of expression, right, and limitations on the of propaganda, right? And you've categorically explained about the new normal in terms of using these trends sometimes as a tool and sometimes as a weapon against the state. So you've categorically explained the constraints for national security. Sometimes countries do impose those, penalties and restrictions to minimize the impact of misinformation and disinformation. So, talking about new trends, you've talked about new challenges as well. The rise of artificial intelligence and algorithms is reshaping the media landscape. How do these technologies impact journalistic independence, media pluralism, and the public's right to access of information?
Thank you very much for this question, because in fact, this is a question about the future of media. Because, for example, it could be the end of journalism, independent journalism. Why? Because artificial intelligence is cheaper than person in newspapers, TV station, radio station, etc. So, and we can observe that the result of working artificial intelligence could be very interesting and attractive for users. And of course, we must remember that that artificial intelligence based on thousands or millions, billions of papers which was written by journalists, for example. And now we have discussion about copyright on this field, that the companies like ChatGPT and other should pay to authors, to publishers for using this data. This is a big next big challenge for regulator and policymakers. But it could be once again a question about the future of media, because so if we will have papers which we, for example, inform about what's happened during the Olympic Games in Paris. We have today very happy day, because I don't know, 15 minutes ago, Poland received the first gold medal on this in Paris. So a little bit strange discipline. I mean about climbing, but we have first golden medal. I don't know how many medals have Pakistan, but we have since first 1 p.m. Today, one gold medal. Okay, but coming back to the artificial intelligence, so I think that it could be once again big challenge, because it will be cheaper, or always the machine of such artificial instruments could be cheaper for owners, for publishers than people. Yeah, but we know that especially in the digital era, independent journalism and journal for democracy that we found independent journalism and independent. No. I think
Okay.
that this is, in fact, your question is about the future of journalism, but we must remember that without good quality of journalism, independent journalism, and journalists, this is not possible to have a democracy. Yeah? When we think about democracy, we should always think about the independent journalism.
Thank you so much for responding to this question. Yeah, you rightly said that independent journalists or freelancers do have their concerns, and you talked about the claiming of copyright to companies like ChatGPT and other AI. So, given your expertise in media law, how do you envision the future of legal frameworks governing online content? Again, the question of restrictions and limitations. What new laws or regulations are needed to address the challenges posed by the digital age? You somehow touched upon these answers.
Yeah, I think that digital era needs the new attempts to regulation of media and media law. So my idea is that not only mine, but I completely agree with this attempt to this problem that not only hard law, I mean about law preparing by state, because as I mentioned, now we have many players. Yeah, so we need multi-stakeholder attempts to this regulation and of this problem, and I think that this is necessary to underscore that for example, soft law preparing by the players on this market should be also important and maybe better because from freedom of expression point of view, this is very important. Of course, once again, freedom of expression are this is not idea without any limitation. So you mentioned about, for example, the problem with national security, etc. So we should have some milestone in this field, and I think that this is important. For example, that not state should decide what we should do on this field, but players on this market, and I think such attempts could be interesting and maybe more safety than traditional attempts to regulation of so freedom of expression. Yeah. I think that next point is, for example, international law or regional law. For example, I gave you some examples from Europe. I mean about European Union's law. Yeah. So I think that this is a good direction in the regulation of this field. Yeah. Not once again, not only the hard law, because it could be not effective sometimes. But when we have many players on the field, we should completely new attempts to regulation of this field.
Thank you so much. Just last question, because I'm sure you must be running out of your time. So many countries are grappling with issues of online anonymity. Should there be limitations on anonymous speech? If so, under what circumstances?
First of all, we must underscore that anonymity in the internet, this is illusion. This is completely illusion. Yeah, because so we have digital personality here, even when we use the nick of when we try to be anonymity. So we should remember that we have IP. Yeah. So it is. For example, very important when we think about such a new regulation in which we can find in some media system like blind lawsuits. It means that, for example, when we can find some comments which are, for example, kind of hate speech, yeah, we can send to the court such blind lawsuits. Again, for example, I don't know, 1, 2, 3, nick, yeah, and based on this, court with some, I don't know, secret service, etc., can find this person who is responsible for these comments. Yeah. Could help could gives us the way that this is a space when we can do everything. This is not true, yeah. And you ask about the limitation of on this field. I think once again that anonymity in internet, this is illusion, and I think that this is it could be good direction because once again this is not true. This is that we have anonymity. Of course, it is sometimes possible. I'm not a IT engineer, but it is possible to make some technological solution which can give us anonymity, but this is rather illusion. Yeah. So I think that it could be a challenge, but I think that maybe others fields are more important on this topic. Yeah.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Professor Skrzypczak, for your detailed discussion and conversation on the topic of human rights in digital age, challenges and opportunities for freedom of expression. You have very expertly provided us the information regarding the transformation of information that has been produced, consumed, and disseminated. And you've talked about the usage of social media as a powerful tool for activism and social change. You talked about the some of the criticism as well in the spread of misinformation and hate speech. You have very expertly responded over the questions of government surveillance to maintain national security in terms of under different circumstances. You have provided us the detailed discussion over the rise of artificial intelligence and algorithms in reshaping the media landscape and the limitations that journalists or the freelance journalists have these days due to the presence of these artificial agency platforms. You also talked about the media law and future legal frameworks as well. You have lastly conveyed a great response over the online anonymity and under what circumstances its presence can be made or its absence can be evaded. So thank you so much for your wonderful time. Any last message would you like to give to our audience or to Team SARIM as well?
Thank you very much for this discussion. So I hope that we will have the digital era without the censorship, and I think that everyone could find a space to realize his personality. So I think that but on the other hand, unfortunately, I think that freedom of expression as a freedom of persons, this is unfortunately the value which are very targeting from many parts and aspects, and in analog era and the digital era, unfortunately, in the future, we will unfortunately should fight for freedom of expression, because it is worthy to fight for it, because freedom of expression gives us opportunity to realize our personality, our idea about humanity, etc. So I wish you, all of our listeners, that it will be kind of maybe idealistic word, but I hope that it is possible, and because it depends on us. So let's do it. Let's do it. The freedom of expression.
Thank you so much.